we were just talking about it earlier, and we have been planning to work together, and finally she was able to set Kaisipan in spite of so much busyness in all the things that she's doing. And I'm so happy to be part of this organization and do whatever advocacy that I still want to do in the Philippines. And thank you very much for welcoming me in your group, Dr. Beeb. Tonight, I'm going to have as my co-moderator, Dr. Ferdinand Pitagan. Raise your hand. Say hello, Ferdy. Acknowledge.
Hi. Hi. Good morning, everyone. My name, yes, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ferdy Pitagan. I'm the Dean on the School of Teacher Education at the National Teachers College. We would like to thank everyone for taking time to attend this for the endeavor as we prepare for the new normal. So we want you to have that open, creative thinking hat as Filipino teachers in order to absorb every learning opportunities that would be given to you this morning. And again, thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Ma'am Lils.
Oh, thank you, my pleasure. I just have to change your title in my presentation. Or maybe I will just take it out since I wanted to call you earlier, and then I said, okay, but since you presented yourself, I'll just take out the title.
Yes,
there. At least they already know you.
You.
Okay, so tonight, Ferdy will help me moderate this presentation. Be conscious of the chat board on the right side. I'm sure you guys are already very familiar with this. I'm sure most of you have been attending these many workshops that we have been doing ever since this, what do you call this, the new normal, because of this, what do you call this? Ang ating dumating na hindi inaasahan, itong COVID-19, coronavirus 19 ay tinatawag na napakasakit para sa mga other Asian group na tinatawag nilang China virus, but really it's called coronavirus. So Dr. Pitagan will help me. Kung meron kayong mga questions, pakilagay lang ninyo sa chat. Kung pwede kong sasagutin ko, or even maybe Dr. Pitagan, sasagutin niya rin yan kung pwedeng naman niyang sagutin. And then also, Dr. Pitagan will help me dun sa mga ibang gagawin natin throughout these activities, this session. We're going to do some polling para makita ninyo. Some of you have not had this experience yet. Magpo-poll lang tayo, or like some kind of an online survey. And then, although marami nang nakuhang information from you si Tony, just for the exercise, magpo-poll tayo para makita ninyo how the survey of Zoom works. And then somewhere in the middle, there's going to be a little bit of exercise na mag-breakout room para merong konting teamwork, merong konting engagement. And then towards the end, we will have 2 questions na, hindi naman question, kundi you will just have to identify or identify some words to say, to react, and just to give us an idea how you took this presentation. Okay, so let me start now and get it going. It's now 8:30, so I am going to I'm going to share my presentation. Okay, do you see it?
Yes, but it's not yet in
presentation.
presentation.
Okay, do you see it? Okay, so let me put it on presenter view. Okay, are we good?
Yep.
Okay, so as has been mentioned, the title of my lecture, webinar, whatever you want to call it, is Designing and Teaching Online Courses. I tried to capture as much as possible in this workshop. Understand that if you have to conduct this designing and teaching online courses, it will take you like a few days. but I try to put everything as much as I can. So if you want to really learn more, either you go on your own to do more research, or Kaisipan will be conducting more workshops, more webinars. So as you've heard, that's me, and my moderator is Dr. Ferdinand Blancaflor Pitagan. So what are we going to discuss today? So I'm going to give you a little bit of a context. So I'm going to talk about the types of delivery format. In other words, like how do you teach in this time during this new normal? I'm going to also talk about online distance learning, since this is the topic of this presentation. And then I'm going to some conceptual philosophical theories to give you some kind of a background on how teaching and learning works and how it relates to online teaching. I'll be talking about instructional design models, and of course the big Bloom's taxonomy. I'm sure a lot of you are not, this is not foreign to a lot of you, since most of you are teachers. We will talk about Bloom's taxonomy in terms of how it relates to designing online courses. We're going to look at online course design model. I'm going to show online course design model twice, when I presented it at this point and then at the end. And then I will show modular course design, because online courses are designed in that design, modular design. We're going to talk about community of inquiry, this thing about how discussion forum and interaction and engagement works in an online course. We'll talk about assessments, and then we'll talk about course alignments. As you can see, it goes to like a whole 360-degree circle, where I start with the theories and then I start with course alignment, and you will see how that works in terms of designing an online course. So let me do some kind of an introduction to provide some perspective, let me talk about teaching delivery formats. Okay, so I'm sure you have heard, you've heard about some of the formats that are presented here, like face-to-face, all of the teaching that we have been doing, you know, especially those who have been teaching for a long time, like myself. You have what you call the face-to-face. That's the traditional classroom environment. Sometimes it's web enhanced, but for the most part, you sit in a classroom and you teach, right? And then came in the hybrid blended combined, which is a combined face-to-face and online format. And then online distance learning, which is the topic of our presentation today. And then the virtual remote, which is going to be the topic of my presentation next time.
Naglanto ka ni kong webinar, ma'am, sa handang Kaisipan.
Wait.
Karon.
Hi.
Wait.
Kaisipan ba? Katay mong gikuha na mag...
Okay. Tony, I think you might have to mute everyone.
Yeah, I am.
Oh.
These are the new entrance.
That's fine. And then, as I was saying,
Kawalan, ma'am, Zooman, ma'am.
Wait.
I-zooman, sa Zooman, ma'am. Sa webinar nga ka ng...
Okay. And then my next session is virtual remote online. And that is really what's going on right now. Virtual remote happened because of COVID. So let me just go over it very, very quickly, just so I'm putting you on where we're supposed to be. So face-to-face traditional classroom, yung ginagawa natin, is what you call synchronous. Synchronous means live. Oops, I'm sorry. Synchronous means live, real time. So katulad nung ginagawa natin ngayon, this is live, this is in real time. Although we are using online, but it's live. Yung traditional nasa classroom ka live, right? You meet in the classroom in a physical space. Technology is not required. What's going on? Technology is not required. Some teachers, like, that's why I put here web enhanced. Some teachers use technology, like if my teaching, all of my teaching are web enhanced. In other words, my students, I use a learning management system. I put all of my content in a learning management system. My students submit their homework in the learning management system, and so forth. And then this is the thing that I want to emphasize, content approval. When you're teaching face-to-face, no one has to approve your content. You go into your classroom and you just teach. You bring your book, however you prepared your course, there's no preparation. Hybrid is a combination of face-to-face and online. So some meet, so as you can see there, synchronous and asynchronous. In other words, some of the sessions are live, some of the sessions are not live. So it's a combination. Technology is not required in the face-to-face component, but for the component that is online, of course, technology is required. Content approval is not required as well. Some schools, you can just go do blended, hybrid, but there is no approval of content. But this is the online distance learning, the one that we're going to talk about today. So this is asynchronous, meaning non-live, meaning you go online, you put content, you add assignments, you add tests, all of those, and your students will log in at a later time. That's why it's called asynchronous. All meetings are not live. You meet online in a learning management system. It could be Blackboard, it could be a lot of things, a lot of different types of learning management system. As a matter of fact, Dr. Beebe will use Modular that was developed by UP, which will be mostly what Kaisipan will be using for their learning management system needs. Although we will also use Moodle if necessary, if there is a situation where we need a real agnostic type of an LMS, we're also going to use Moodle. Technology, of course, is required because the LMS is a technology and you have to conduct your course in online. Now, here is the big difference. Content, instructional design, approval are required prior to delivery. So guys, you guys now that we're talking about this, understand that if you're going to teach online, you need to develop your content prior to the first day of class. That's the standard practice. You actually have to submit your course and then you develop your content, and that needs to be approved by a department before that goes live. See the big difference of content of online distance learning from face-to-face and blended? Now, virtual remote is kind of a new thing. It's not really new because we have been using Zoom and all of those call conferencing, but the format, it's new. Although we have, we're kind of using teaching live, but now it has been established as a format. So as a format, so again, that's why I put here, this is our COVID-19 response. Virtual or remote online is live, just like what I'm doing now. This is like virtual remote teaching. You meet online using a call conference software. You use Zoom or you use WebEx, any live conferencing software. Of course, technology is required, but then, unlike an online course, content is not required. So the environment right now that you are facing is either you're teaching virtual remote because the students cannot come to the school right now. However, this is going to happen come, I believe, what, mid-August, or if not, then you are going to teach the traditional distance learning, which is what you are hopefully going to learn tonight. Okay, so I need you to just really understand this online distance learning, and then of course, virtual remote. Oh, you know what I forgot? I went straight into into this and I did not do the poll. So Tony will do the poll somewhere and I'll tell you when we're gonna do the poll, okay? I forgot, sorry. So here are the things that I kind of separated from that column, and I just put a summary here. Designing and teaching online courses, as I've said, it's online distance learning. It's asynchronous. All meetings are not live. You use a learning management system. Technology is required, and the content needs to be approved. So, okay, so that's the perspective. I kind of like put you in place what we're going to talk about tonight. Now I'm going to start with foundational concepts, and then we're going to the real steps and also different types of concepts and technologies that are going to be used for an actual online learning course design. So let's start with learning theories. What are learning theories? Learning theories is used not only for online courses, it's also, of course, used for traditional teaching and learning. So learning theories are a set of principles that explain how best a student can acquire, retain, and recall new information. So these are the four that will guide you in teaching and learning. It is very important that you understand these four learning theories. If you have a degree in education, this is not new to you. If you have somehow forgotten this is a good time to review it, because the beauty of teaching online, all the things that we have learned when we were taking that degree in education, all of those, most of them will apply. So the first learning theory is behaviorism. What is behaviorism? In behaviorism, learner is passive. They learn via external processes, example, positive reinforcement. What are the methods used in behaviorism? You use the lecture, drill and practice, rote learning. In tests, you use multiple choice test. As you can see, this is teacher focused, as you can see on the right. This is teacher driven. Another learning theory that we're going to talk about is cognitivism. In cognitivism, learning goes beyond external. It's an internal process that uses short and long-term memory. What are the methods? You use lecture, you use visual tools, mind maps, charts, and you facilitate memorization of learning, and you use multiple choice with the addition of essay assignment. But as you can see, it's also teacher focused. When you say teacher focused, the teacher is the one who is actively doing the work. It's teacher driven. The next learning theory that we're going to talk about is constructivism. What is constructivism? Learner builds on personal experience from their internal experiences, active and social in the learning process. What are the methods? Discovery, collaborative group work, scaffolding, self-guided learning based on personal experience, and tests are done through peer grading, through review. As you can see, this is student focused. In other words, teaching and learning is not only done by the teacher. Teaching and learning includes the students. Their experiences is also part of the learning process. The fourth principle of learning theory is connectivism, and this is the one that is a product of the internet. Connectivism is where learner is self-directed. Learning is done via nodes. content source, people, groups within a network. The methods are self-directed, quest for content, sharing of content sources, spontaneous learning groups, creates knowledge collaboratively. This is really the time of the internet. So that here at the top, teaching is done by your teachers. They're teacher driven. Here at the bottom, they are very student focused. The teaching and learning do involve students. In other words, you're not only learning from your teachers, you're learning from yourselves. And part of your experiences, like in constructivism, is part of the learning process. A teacher who would use constructivism would always ask students to bring in their own experiences and use those experiences as part of the learning process. That's constructivism. In connectivism, it's really self-directed. As a matter of fact, connectivism, you can do this on your own. You can do online. You can actually learn by just going online. And as a matter of fact, when I teach in a web-enhanced environment, I allow my students to have their computers open. And if there is anything that I cannot explain, or maybe they don't really understand, I'll tell them, okay, search this thing. So search connectivism. What is really connectivism? And the information that they gather online becomes part of the learning process. It's very self-directed. So the more students go on their own and research, the more they learn. So I need you to really understand these 4 types of learning theories and ask yourself, where are you? Where are you? What do you use? Are you teacher directed? Are you the only one who is doing the teaching and learning? Do you allow some visuals in your teaching, but still just you? Or do you allow your students to be part of the teaching process, where when they participate, their experiences becomes part of the teaching? And do you allow everything that is available out there, particularly through internet, because it's part of the teaching and learning? And it's a very, very rich environment. Okay, so teaching online requires understanding of all of these theories. Okay, now we're going to go to talk about the next important part of designing and teaching online, which is instructional design. What is
Lilia, do you want
sorry?
to do your polling now?
Oh, thank you.
It's a good
Okay,
break.
why don't we do the polling just to have a little break? Thank you, guys. I tend to do this even in the classroom. Once I start teaching, that's it. I forget. Okay, Tony, you want to do the polling? Okay. Are you gonna do it? Read it?
I'm unmute myself. I just launched the first one. Are you interested in teaching an online course?
So please answer. Are you interested in teaching an online course? Yes or no? Do you want to do the next question, Tony? Or do we wait for the results?
I have to end this first.
Okay, so we'll try to get the result first?
Yep.
Okay.
Hurry up, people.
Let's see how many of you are interested in teaching online.
I will make you a co-host.
Tony, should I stop my screen sharing, or should I just leave it?
Just
okay.
You should shorten the time also.
Okay, so we already have 76%, so I can end this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Just want to get an idea.
Yeah, 50 people or
Wow,
96%
see?
said yes.
Very
However,
good.
there are 2 representing 4% who said no. I will share the
You
results
should have
now.
put why, right?
Yeah.
Agad, oh.
There.
Okay,
Mute.
so next.
Wait, I will just mute the. Wait, sorry, Maria. Okay, the next would be. Wait. Relaunch? No, I'm not relaunching. Where's my poll to? There. Okay. Is your school offering online courses? So bilis na
Wow,
sila sumagot ngayon.
a lot of people, huh? That's interesting. Okay na yan, Tony, siguro.
80%.
That's a good, yeah, that's a good read.
Okay.
Thank you. Very nice. Wow. I'm surprised. That's a good sign.
Yeah. Shall I do the third and the fourth?
Yeah, let's keep on going. Let's finish all of them. Let's do all of them. Is your school offering virtual remote classes? That's why I have to explain that virtual. Yeah, everyone now is doing virtual remote, right?
Mhm.
Wow, I
Yes.
wonder those who answered no, so what are you guys going to do? So if you don't have an online and then you don't have virtual remote as well, and if you guys are still not going back to class when school starts, I understand that that's still the case. Okay. That's fine. That's fine, Tony. We can go to the next question.
We stop at 49.
That's okay. It's a good reading of what they have.
Yeah.
What level? So let's see who teaches elementary, high school, and college.
Oh, this is nice. Ang bilis.
Bilis na. Alam na nila.
Oh.
Oh. See, this gives me an idea of my audience. This is some kind of what you call a diagnostic polling. So if you are teaching a virtual remote class, this is a very good thing to do so that you will have an idea of your audience, so that, you know, when you give examples, when you talk about different things, because you know your audience, you can relate more to your audience. You can relate to them better because you kind of like did a diagnostic polling. Okay, so I think we're good.
We still have 2 more. Last, what class do you
Okay.
teach?
Last. So what class do you teach? Pagka medyo tumigil na, okay na. 75% voted. So a lot of English. As usual, very few mathematics. Math teachers are not really, and thank you very much, math teachers, for coming. For some reason, math teachers are not very eager to teach online. Social studies, English writing, that's very normal. This is very typical of people who actually are, who attend a session that has something to do with online learning. So thank you very much. I have now a good idea of my audience, so I can hopefully be able to relate to you more. So thank you, Tony.
Thanks. You're
So I
welcome.
wonder how I can take this thing out. Can you take it out, or? Oh, I can post it. Hello. I just did. Sometimes I'm feeling mo parating. So I'm going to talk about something new after I did the learning theories. So now let's talk about instructional design. Instructional design is not new. It's just that because of online learning, because of distance learning, instructional design came into the fore. Naging napaka-importante na ng instructional design. What is instructional design? It's the process by which instruction is improved through the analysis of learning needs and systematic development of learning materials. You're talking about the process which instruction is improved through the analysis of learning needs. So, proseso siya na talagang i-analyze mo yung mga needs ng mga estudyante mo, and then you develop your learning materials. So sa online learning, magde-develop ka ng content. That's why you need to understand and learn and know how to design instruction. The purpose of instructional design, also known as instructional systems, is efficiency and effectiveness. Designed instruction meets the initial needs of the learners. It is the practice of maximizing the effectiveness, efficiency, and appeal of instruction and other learning experiences. In other words, because you really are planning your teaching, you're looking at the system, you're looking at the needs of your students before you even teach, instructional design works well with online learning. In online learning, it is very important that your content has been vetted for efficiency and effectiveness before you even start teaching on the first day. What are the principles of instructional design? They are analyze, develop/select, and implement. And here they are. So how do you analyze? You analyze the learners, learning context and purpose for the instruction. You examine students' skill levels, technical, educational, cultural background, attitudes, motivations for learning. You identify the learning objectives and the purpose of the instruction, example, credit, certificate, and so forth. You do an analysis. You know, I'm not saying that we don't analyze when we teach face-to-face, but it's not really necessary. You go on your first day, you go to your class, and you bring your textbook, you're an expert in teaching, you teach. And if you do some research during your class, that's maybe a bonus. Instructional design includes identifying and selecting content sources on the web and or developing new content. You have to put together content. You have to develop source materials, and then you come up with instructional content. You select delivery methods of platforms for instruction and interaction. So you use technology. It's very important that you know what technology works for, like, if you're teaching mathematics, what might be a platform that's good for math? If you're teaching social studies, what might be the type of interaction that would work in social studies? You select you select applications and methods to support group interaction. You develop tools or methods for student assessments and course evaluation. And then you talk about implementation. Putting course into practice with students, garnering feedback from students, conducting formative summative assessment to modify course materials, and then you revise or update your course. It is an ongoing process. When you're doing instructional design, you're always analyzing, developing, selecting materials, and you're implementing. And then you look at instructional design models. An instructional design model is a tool, a framework to develop instructional materials. It helps instructional designers provide a structure and meaning to the learning material. It allows them to visualize the training need and break down the process of designing training material into steps. And you have heard all of the, most if not all of the instructional design models. This is a typical instructional design model, the ASSURE, A-S-S-U-R-E. A means you analyze learner characteristics, you state the objectives, you select, modify, or design materials, you utilize materials, you require learner response, and you evaluate. That's your framework in this ASSURE model. Other models, these are the 5 types of instructional design models, very popular. The first one is the ADDIE model, the ADDIE model. Some of you, I'm sure, have been using this. It came from Florida. The reason for that is the gap. What you do is you conduct gap analysis and training is to find out if training is required. You establish desired outcomes and existing knowledge. Another type of instructional design model is the ASSURE, the one that I just showed you. Another instructional design model is the GAGMI 9 events of instruction. Very, very popular. Robert GAGMI, Conditions of Learning, 9 events of instruction. And then you have Merrill's Principle of Instructional Model, using 5 principles of learning. And the last one is the CAMP Instructional Model. So they're all available. It's up to you to figure out which one you want to use. The one that I'm very particularly fond of is the ADDIE model. So the ADDIE, most of all of these instructional design have something in common. And as you can see, analysis is usually part of an instructional design model: design, develop, implement, and of course, evaluate. So most of instructional design models have these components. I'm very fond of ADDIE models, so I'm not saying that that's what you should use, but to me it's simple but comprehensive enough. So step 1 of ADDIE is to analyze what are the end user audience characteristics, scope, project, timeline, budget, project complexity. So the polling that I did with you is some kind of an analysis. Second part of ADDIE is the design. In the design, you evaluate and organize content. You use graphic assets and e-learning characteristics. You develop, that's where you create deliverable with appropriate development tools. You implement and you evaluate. This will make sense when we talk about learning objectives. So don't get overwhelmed if this is the first time that you're seeing and reading this, but we're going to be talking about this a few times. And that's ADDIE again. Okay, so let me just pause a little bit about instructional design. If I may just go back to that screen. What does instructional design mean to us teachers, especially if you are teaching online? What that basically basically tells you is, before you teach online, you do all of these steps. You analyze, you design, you develop, you implement, and you evaluate. Sorry about that spelling over there. Again, if you compare it to face-to-face instruction, if you're an expert of your content, you're a good teacher. If you teach the same thing and you know that what you're teaching isn't the textbook and those teachings that you've been doing for so many years are proven, you're a good teacher. But that is not the environment in online. In online, you have to do all of these things. You analyze your learner, you analyze your students, you analyze your content, you design your course, you design your content, you develop it, because if you don't develop the content, there is nothing that is going to be in your learning management system. You design your course and then you develop your course using the content, you source out the content, and then you implement. Implement meaning you run it, you run the course, and then you teach, and then you evaluate. You find out if what you did is good. You find out if, it's not only that you find out if your students are learning, you try to find out if all the things that you've done in design and development and implementation are good or effective or efficient. That's what you mean by instructional design. There is a conscious effort in designing content. It's not like, you know, when we write our lesson plan, that's one way of designing our instruction, right? When we write our lesson plan, we put there what we're going to do for the next day, what are the activities for the next day, and so on and so forth. That's an example of designing instruction. But with these models, using ADDIE, using Assure, using these different type of models, it elevates you to a more structured, a better framework, specific way of doing things, which makes you a more effective, more efficient teacher. Now, let's talk about Bloom's taxonomy, something very, very popular. If you're a teacher, Bloom's taxonomy is like your bread and butter. Bloom's taxonomy is a hierarchical ordering of cognitive skills that can, among countless others uses, help teachers teach and help students learn. And this is a very powerful graph that I'm going to show you here. So the first level of Bloom taxonomy is remembering, lower level taxonomy. In remembering, what do? You find out or you teach what students can recall. The idea here is you teach something that they remember. It's very teacher driven, right? And what are the activities that you might do here in terms of evaluation? You use fill in the blanks, you use matching, right? And the terms that you use here would be recall or remember. Those are your verbs. So if the question arises, what is the taxonomy level that you're using? Oh, I'm using level 1, first level of Bloom taxonomy, which is recall. My verb, the verbs that I use would be recall, remember. It's what I'm talking about right now would be very important when we go into designing and writing learning objectives. So the second level of Bloom taxonomy is understanding. So now you're not only going to teach to help students remember or recall. You're now going to teach so that students will understand. So can the student explain ideas or concepts? Would they be able to classify? Those are your verbs there. classify, describe, discuss, explain, identify, and so forth. So if you are trying to teach and you're trying, to make your students understand, you are achieving, second level Bloom's taxonomy. The third level Bloom taxonomy is applying or application. Can the student use the information in a new way? So the way of teaching here is you're asking if your students would be able to choose, demonstrate, dramatize, employ, illustrate, interpret. So if you want to establish learning objectives and you want them to be able to apply, these are the verbs that you use to demonstrate, to dramatize, to interpret, and so forth. The next level taxonomy is analyzing. Higher level taxonomy. Can the student distinguish between different parts? Would they be able to compare? Would they be able to contrast? Would they be able to criticize, differentiate? So if these are the terms or the verbs that you're using, you're actually teaching at the level of analyzing. The next level of taxonomy is evaluating. Can the student justify a stand or decision? Now you are in higher level taxonomy. Your students now should be able to appraise, argue, defend, judge. Those are the verbs. And the last one, the highest level in Bloom taxonomy is, can students create a new product or a point of view? So your teaching would involve making them, students, assemble, construct, create, design, develop. So in instructional design, when you're trying to develop your goals and your learning objectives, it is very, very important. As a matter of fact, it's like a Bible. When you're doing instructional design and you lay out a learning objective, the first question that will be asked is, what level of Bloom taxonomy are you using? Because when you lay it out as your different level, when you say you just want them to remember, sorry about that, then when you do your activities on the right here, these are the types of activities that you will give. And then when you evaluate your students, you go back and see, will they be able to do all of these things? Will they be able to construct and so forth? Here are different ways of looking at Bloom's taxonomy. So let's start from the bottom again. This is really to reinforce your understanding of Bloom's taxonomy because it's, it's just a lot. Some of you, I guess this is a review. Some of you, you're seeing this for the first time. So we have the Bloom taxonomy in the first column. We have the verbs. I'm repeating it here. And you have example learning objectives. Pay attention, guys. Learning objectives. So remember, the key verbs or keywords are list, recite, outline, define, name. These are your verbs to use when you want your students, when your goal for your students is to remember and to recall. What are example learning objectives? This is an example learning objective. By the end of this lesson, the student will be able to recite Newton's 3 laws of motion. So by recite, you're just making students remember. In the next level, these are your key verbs. Describe, explain, paraphrase, and here is an example learning objectives. By the end of this lesson, the student will be able to describe. Take note of those. And then in apply, here are your verbs, calculate, predict, apply. By the end of the lesson, the student will be able to calculate kinetic energy. So you're saying that that's at the apply level. Analyze, classify, break down. Here is an example learning objective by the end of this lesson. The student will be able to differentiate between potential and kinetic energy. You see the word there, differentiate. That's doing analytical work. Evaluate using these verbs. An example learning objective would be, by the end of this lesson, the student will be able to determine whether using conservation of energy or conservation of momentum would be more appropriate for solving dynamics problem. So now you're doing evaluation. You're not only comparing, but you're also evaluating. And the top one, which is create, where you design, you formulate, you build, you invent. By the end of the lesson, the student will be able to design an original homework. This is where creative people, inventors, or people who are innovative, this is where they're good at. So if you want your students to come up with something new, something that they create, something from their own original thought and original thinking, that's a type of the highest level of Bloom taxonomy. So take note of the example learning objectives. We're going to get back to this. Let me just, I'm thinking maybe I'm not going to do this yet, and maybe I will go to, because it's going to be, oh, okay, sorry. Hold on. I was thinking maybe we'll go to the class activity, but I guess not. Okay, so this is an online course design model template in an online course. Just to give you an idea, just to show you where online learning design, instructional design, and learning objectives fall into place. If you are looking, or if you are using a learning management system, some examples of which would be Blackboard and Moodle, this is how they are laid out. If we have time and if it's possible, I'm going to a live class and I will show you an actual learning management system where a course is being taught. I can show you one of the courses that I teach where you can see the announcement in an online class. Because you're not there, you have to post an announcement. So an announcement should be dear, supportive, regularly posted, emphasize tasks, and so forth. You put your course information. This is where you put your course syllabus, your course schedule, and things like that. In an LMS, there are boxes where you put them. So when you do the training tomorrow, I'm not sure, or the next day with Dr. Bede, that's when you will see where these things fall. Where are they added? And then you put some instructor information. And then the course modules. See, the course modules is where you put your objectives, you put your resources, you put your to-do lists. This is really your classroom in an online course. This is where you put your materials, you put your tests in course modules. And this is the activity, the engagement in an online course, the discussion, otherwise known as discussion forum. So online interaction among students and instructors is keystone to online course effectiveness. What that means is, because you are not there to teach face-to-face, you have to ask questions where they can interact, they can show you if they have understood the reading materials, and they can show you by different levels of Bloom taxonomy if they're able to recall, if they're able to apply, if they're able to analyze, and so on and so forth. So when you ask questions in the discussion forum, for example, you have to decide what level of Bloom's taxonomy am I going to use? And when you ask questions in a discussion forum, it has to be a higher level Bloom taxonomy. In a let's say you're teaching chapter 1, or in a social studies class, for example, and you gave them reading materials, you gave them PowerPoint materials, you gave them web links where they can read and so forth. And then you want to find out if they have learned something. And the way to find out is to ask a discussion question forum. And in the discussion question forum, you are going to ask questions that uses higher level Bloom's taxonomy. Because if you use the lower level Bloom taxonomy, like the recall or understanding is still okay, but if you use the recall, which is a very objective type question, then they will just copy each other's question and they will just copy each other's responses. That's why it's very important when you ask a discussion question, you have to use higher level taxonomy so that the questions will roll, so that students will participate, they will be able to add value into the discussion, because there are different ways in which a question or answer will be laid out or will be interpreted. And then this is one of the one section of the online course model where students submit their assignment. Same thing, when you give an assignment, you look at your Bloom's taxonomy and you ask yourself, okay, what type of assignment am I going to give them? Except that in an area where they submit assignment, they don't have to discuss, they don't have to interact with each other. In a discussion forum, a teacher asks a question, students respond to the question, and students can also respond and make comments on the responses of their classmates. And then the assessments. This is where you're going to tie in what your learning objectives here, the discussions that you ask your students to participate in, assignments that you gave them, and then the tests that you are going to give them to measure if they have learned something. So if your learning objective says recall, your assessment has to be recall. If your objective says analyze, your assessment has to be analyze. They always have to talk to each other. And this is a typical online course design model. And then of course the grades. And that's messaging, which is part of the technology and course support. Now let's talk modular. In online learning, the design is modular. Modular instructional design. Modular course design building courses out of smaller, discrete units known as modules. So in one module, sometimes chapter 1 and chapter 2 would be module 1, chapter 2 and chapter 3 would be module 2, and so forth. In one module, all of these have to be present. You put there the aims or the learning objectives. Your course content could be readings, textbook, PowerPoint, links, teaching methods and resources. What are the teaching methods that you're going to use there? Are you going to use discussion forum? Are you going to use role plays? Are you going to make them demonstrate? Are you going to make them do PowerPoint presentations? And then test. What type of tests are you giving? And how are you going to monitor all of these? They go as a circle. So this is one module. So when you develop one module, for example, you have 15 chapters. Ordinarily, the way to do it, you design those 15 chapters and make them into like 7 or 8 modules, and then you put similar topics together, and then they fall into one module. But just remember that modular means all of these elements are in that module. Okay, so now we're going back to the learning objectives, and this is where we're going to have a little bit of an exercise. What are learning objectives? A learning objective should describe what students should know or be able to do at the end of the course that they couldn't do before. So when you're thinking of learning objectives, you have to think of what do you want your students to be able to do at the end of the chapter? at the end of the semester, at the end of the year. That's a learning objective. And when you write your learning objective, you go back to your learning theories, you go back to your instructional learning models, and then you go back to, most of all, your Bloom's taxonomy. Because when you write your learning objective, it has to be very clear as to what level of Bloom taxonomy you are using. Because if you don't define the level of taxonomy, it would be very difficult for you to create tasks. It would be difficult to create activities. It will be difficult for you to create tests, and it will be difficult for you to evaluate. Like if they fail, why did they fail? Did your learning objectives talk to your activities? Is your learning objective aligned with your activities, with your test, and with your teaching methods? Because if they're not, even if they pass, you cannot really say that they have really learned something. How do you write measurable learning objectives? These are the three components of a learning objective. What is it that they have to perform? A description of what the learner is expected to do. What is the condition, the environment under which the learner is expected to perform? And what is the criteria? Is there 1, 2, 3 levels of performance that they need to achieve? Is medium high? Is medium good enough? Or should they achieve above 95 and so forth? And these are the three learning domains. You have the psychomotor skill, you have the affective attitude, the affective, which is attitude, and cognitive, which is knowledge. In other words, psychomotor means what you're trying to achieve are skills. In affective, you're talking about the attitudes, and in cognitive, you're talking about knowledge. I'll get back to this. At this point, I know you might be having some information overload, so don't worry, we're gonna get back to, when I give you the exercise, we're gonna get back to that. Okay, here are examples of good learning objectives. Take note of the colors. Audience is green, behavior is red, condition is blue, degree is orange, and time frame is black. Here, let's try to analyze. After reading this story, An Hour for Abuelo, students will analyze the main characters based on the attached rubric, right? So, green, audience, students. Behavior, analyze the character. Condition, after reading this story, An Hour for Abuelo. The degree is orange. Time frame is black. Special note, the condition and the time frame are the same for this objective. So the degree, the condition, which is blue, and the time frame are the same for this objective. Here's another example of a good learning objective. At the end of the employment unit, students will identify 8 out of 10 common occupations from a series of pictures showing different occupation. But let me just get back to this. See? Oh, Mercedes Bantilante has started screen sharing. Someone is doing screen sharing. Okay? So just take note when you're writing learning objectives, you don't really have to be too technical like this, but just remember these three. You need to define what they need to do. You need to find the environment and what is the criteria that they have to achieve. And then you have to define the different, these learning domains. Are you in the skills domain? Are you in the attitudes? Are you in the knowledge domain? And sometimes these three are used together. Okay. So, let's see if we can write something here. What time is it? 9:29. What time are we ending? 8, 9. We're ending at 10, right?
Sorry, you still have 22 minutes.
Uh-oh. If I have 22 minutes, then we might not have time to do this activity. So what we're gonna do instead of, that's okay. I think we're going to skip the learning objective activity because it might use all of our time. Just make sure, guys, that you go back and you really learn this learning objective in designing when you're doing instructional design courses, okay?
Yeah.
And by the way, all of these materials will be made available to you. We're going to try and figure out, of course, the recording will be made available, and maybe we'll also develop a dashboard where all of our learning materials, PowerPoint, and all of those will be made available to those who have attended the workshop, the webinar. Okay, so I'm gonna skip there because there are other important topics that we need to discuss. So here is another concept which is called community of inquiry. When you talk of community of inquiry, this is now talking about the interaction. What type of interaction happens in your class? The community of inquiry theoretical framework represents a process of creating deep, meaningful, collaborative, constructivist learning experience through the development of 3 interdependent elements, which are social, cognitive, and teaching presence. In other words,
excuse me, Lilia. You need to share screen again. You need to share screen again.
Oh my goodness, sorry. Wow. So what did I miss? I guess because of the one who did the screen sharing? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Here we go.
Yep.
Okay, hold on. Current slide, let me just do that. I guess we missed that. So I'm talking about community of inquiry, which is the COI. Community of inquiry is the theoretical framework. It's a framework representing a process of creating deep and meaningful, collaborative, constructivist learning experience through the development of 3 interdependent elements, which are social, cognitive, and teaching presence. And community of inquiry is really more about what you do during discussion forum, what you do to establish presence in your class. So this is the community of inquiry. These are the 3 components and what the goal of COI is. So what is social presence? Ability to perceive others in an online environment as real and the projection of oneself as a real presence. In other words, what it's basically saying is in an online course, teachers have to have social presence. You also make sure that you encourage your students to always have social presence. Cognitive presence is the extent to which learners are able to construct and confirm meaning through sustained reflection and discourse. When you conduct a discussion forum and you created a discussion forum question and they respond to your discussion forum questions, you make sure that there is cognitive presence. That's why it's important that you're asking higher level taxonomy questions, because you want them to be able to construct and confirm meaning through sustained reflection and discourse. In a discussion forum, the I agree is not enough. I agree, why? I disagree, why? You always have to support and establish a position. That's what you mean by cognitive presence. Teaching presence is defined as the design of cognitive and social presence for the realization of meaningful learning. It involves instructional design and organization of course and activities, facilitation of course and activities, and direct instruction. In other words, you still have to teach. Unfortunately, in online learning, some teachers, when they develop their courses and when the courses are already developed and they let the courses run, they become absent. They don't participate in discussion forum anymore. They don't facilitate. All they do is just grade the work that the students are submitting. then that means you're not observing what you call community of inquiry. The goal of community of inquiry is to build a solid foundation of social presence and teaching presence to stimulate cognitive and presence in a course. The discussion forum is the heart of an online course because you're not there to teach face-to-face. Wala ka dun hindi ka nagtuturo. Ang ginagawa ng mga estudyante mo, binabasa yung ginawa mo. So it is very, very important na meron kang social presence, meron kang cognitive presence, at meron kang teaching presence. Otherwise, correspondence course yun. Pinadalhan mo lang sila ng material, binabasa lang nila, sasagutin nila yung question, ipapadala nila sa yung question. Hindi yun online. Correspondence course yun. That's the big difference of a correspondence course with an online course. And then, of course, you'll talk about assessments. A course is not going to be complete without assessment. The purpose of assessment is to gather relevant information about student performance or progress, or to determine student interests, to make judgments about their learning process. After receiving this information, teachers can reflect on each student's level of achievement, as well as on specific inclinations of the group to customize their teaching plans. Para kung kailangan mong mag-adjust, mag-adapt, yung assessment will help you modify. It will help you change things here and there. But it's very important. You cannot have a course, online or traditional, without doing assessments. And these are different types of assessments. You have the diagnostic. Some of the diagnostic we did in the polling, used to identify current knowledge or misconceptions about a topic. Formative would be different types of feedback, like student observation, homework. Summative is used to sum up learning at the end of instructional process. And you do this all the time. You do diagnostic in the beginning of the chapter, beginning of the semester. You do formative. Formative are during, as you are teaching. Discussion forum is a type of a formative assessment. Summative assessment is at the end. You summarize, you sum it up. What is it that they learned? You have to find out. And these are different ways by which formative and summative assessments are characterized. Formative helps to form learning, ongoing assessment of progress, informal daily class activities, start of class, themes, needs assessment, what might not work, group work, distribution of workload, might not work. Informative. Summative summarizes learning. It concludes. You find out the conclusion at the end of a semester, at the end of a chapter. Usually they're formal. It's usually at the end of the lesson. Examples are tasks, projects, presentations, interviews, and so on. What might not work, presentation, public speaking, because these are, on the spot. It's not summative. Assess learning, inform instruction, have clear criteria, checklist, rubrics, error correction, peer assessment, and so forth. These are the things that you will achieve doing formative, summative assessment. And this one, the most, I would imagine, is the most important part of course design, course alignment. I mentioned it a little bit as we were going. So there are three components of course alignment: intended learning outcomes, assessment, teaching and learning objectives. So intended learning outcomes are your learning objectives. What should students know or be able to do as a result of your course? Assessment are those tests, measures, activities where you measure if they have learned. So you do diagnostic, formative, and summative. And then your teaching and learning activities are all the activities that you use in the class. You could have your lecture materials, teaching materials, you could have discussion forum, you could have assignments. All of those should align with each other. So if you have established a learning objective here, whatever activity that you are going to do, make sure that you're going to achieve your learning objective. so that when you assess, you're actually assessing what they have learned in what you have done, so that you are sure that they're achieving the learning objectives that you have established. And here are an example of an alignment of an online course. So your learning objectives, your resources, materials, your technology, learning activities and engagement, your technology, assessment and measure, all of those should be aligned. All of those should talk to each other. You cannot just put in a learning activity that has nothing to do with the achievement of your learning objective, and so forth and so on. Remember those. Alignment is very, very important in online course design. You know, in a face-to-face class, we wake up one day and we want to do something and we bring it to the class and make the class interesting. That does not work in an online course. Online course is very defined. Here in the United States, we have what you call the middle states. We have peer reviews, and when they come in and look at your courses, the first thing that they will look at is if your course is aligned, if there is alignment. They would randomly go to classes and find out if the course design is done properly. And they look at all of these alignments. Here an example of strong alignment. So here an example of a learning outcome or a learning objective. Students will be able to apply one or more literary theories or concepts to analyze at least one of the required texts for this course. Here is an evidence. Textual analysis of at least one of the required texts that includes a coherent, cogent application of an appropriate theoretical lens. So this is an evidence or a demonstration of what a student can do. These are the materials to achieve this learning objective: the chapter, a PDF of how to guide writing, relevant mini lectures, examples. A learning activity would be a quiz, a discussion forum, a student proposal analysis, peer review, first draft of analysis, option to revise and resubmit final paper. That's an example where alignment is shown, is evident. Here is an example of a weak alignment, right? Same learning objective. Look at the acceptable evidence. Book summary of at least one of the required texts. Instructional material, required text, lectures, learning activities, required quizzes. It did not really demonstrate how they are aligned. Like reading quizzes, you don't read quizzes, you complete a quiz. You go through and submit a quiz. And how would that quiz demonstrate that this learning outcomes? See, look at that reading quiz compared to quiz up here. Quizzes on assigned literary theory of readings. So what quiz will you do? You go back here. What are you going to test? What materials are you going to show here? Go back here. What would be the evidence? Go back to your learning outcomes. And then, of course, I bring you back to the online course design model, which is also the template. So in summary, this is basically what we have discussed. For the most part, we talk about the course modules, where you have your objectives, your resources, your to-do list, your discussion forum, your assignments here, and your assessment. All of these you design before the class starts. That's why you cannot mistake or conflate or misconceive or get confused that, if I may just go back, you cannot confuse virtual online with online distance, with everything that I've shown you tonight. Virtual remote is like face-to-face here that uses technology. You don't have to create content. You don't need content that has to be approved before the semester starts. You use technology. You come to the forum, you get your call conferencing software, and you teach. If you're an excellent teacher, your teacher will go very well because you did not really prepare so much. But in online distance learning, not only do you have to be a good teacher, you have to develop good content. Because in online distance learning, learning is not only from the instructor, learning is for the most part coming from the content that you put into the course. Now, I want us to do an exercise which, okay, so this is what I want us to do. Can we, hold on, maybe I'll put this in the chat board.
Do you need help?
Oh yeah, someone. Hello, Tony or Maria. Can you post this class activity post in the chat board? Because when I stop the sharing, they won't see this anymore.
I don't have a copy of your presentation, so.
Let me do this.
Do you see it, Ferdy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, put it in the chat board, please. Sorry. Yep. Here's my moderator. What am I doing? Okay, kuha mo na, Ferdy.
Wait lang.
Wait lang.
Challenging
Topic.
Y.
And then we're going to do word cloud.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing, okay? Okay, so post mo na sa ano. Okay, everyone, listen, everyone. So here is your class activity. I want you first, you are going to do 3 things. Okay, guys, listen. I want you to do 3 things. Number 1, from everything that I have presented tonight, what is your favorite topic and why? Favorite topic is 1 word. Why, you will just say why, quick. 1 sentence, 2 sentences. Freddie, how do you do this? Do you want us to do this one at a time so you can do the word cloud?
Yes, ma'am. One at a time.
Okay, so yes. Everyone, let's do this one at a time. So I'm going to make sure pag natapos yung una, ipopost ulit yung pangalawa.
Okay. What is your favorite topic? So you need to key in your key phrase, just key phrase, not the complete sentence, just the topic. Let us know, out of all the discussion, what is your favorite topic so far? Okay. Okay.
Key phrase lang, walang why, walang why.
Walang why.
Mag-chat. Mag-wire ba po siya?
Bloom Taxonomy, ADDIE. Instructional design.
Keep them coming.
Keep them coming. Para makita natin.
There are some people who are signed in one log in.
Yeah.
So each of them should also
Idea
submit
should,
their,
yeah. Oh, you mean naka-mobile technology sila?
there's a
Naka-classroom,
group,
ma'am.
there's a group of them in a classroom, 14 in a group.
Oh, okay. Well, they
And
can just keep on posting as many as they can.
right, and another group has 4. I don't know the others.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they can put as many there because marami sila para ma-reflect yung ano. Kasi gusto natin lumabas sa cloud kung alin ang pinaka favorite topic nila.
We also have one person from Mozambique.
Wow. Hello, Mozambique. That's nice.
Actually, a Filipina,
Working
Mercy.
OFW?
Yeah, no, Filipina Women's Network. She invited him, and
hello from Mozambique.
Yes.
De Lazard to everyone. Oh my God, I hope I read that properly.
So have you captured it already? Okay. So
okay na. Okay na, tingnan natin ang word cloud.
Tingnan natin. Ma'am, wait lang.
Meron pa.
Okay. I just have to.
so Mercy is a teacher in Mozambique. She runs a kindergarten school.
Wow.
Okay. I will share my screen now.
Okay.
So that we would capture some of your...
Teka, kukuhanan ko rin ng picture.
Teka lang. Okay. Okay, so this is the word cloud that we have generated from your response. So yung design na yan, that's instructional design kasi they only get one word. So the higher the word, it means to say that this is the most uttered word. So instructional design, Bloom Taxonomy, Modular Instructional Design, ADDIE, assessment, different types of assessment, connectivism, Bloom's Taxonomy, and the course design. So these are some of their favorite topics during the discussion.
Very nice. So yeah, that's your takeaway. That's something that you will remember from taking this workshop, this webinar. Now let's go to the next one. The next question is
what are your difficulties? What are your
challenges?
Most difficult challenges during this webinar, or what are the topics that you find more challenging? So it could be your, personal and professional difficulties in participating in a webinar, or the topics that you need more clarification of. Okay, so we would capture the whole gamut of difficulties. Okay, please type in again at our chat room. One word only. Okay, I will capture it again. Okay, chat. What are your difficulties? Oh, okay.
Keep it coming, course outline. Keep it coming, guys. Let's go. Alignment. Online course. Information overload. I hear that a lot of times. Yep. Maria, listen. Bloom Taxonomy, more training on how to do Bloom Taxonomy. Modular instructional design.
Yeah, there's actually an excellent source done by churches. We'll post it on the Kaisipan board or on the LMS tomorrow. But what he did was he had Bloom's taxonomy verbs, And then since we're doing digital, he added the digital verbs, and then he added sample activities to all of those different levels.
Keep on going, guys. Oh, mukhang wala silang masyadong challenge.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yun ang interpretation ba?
It's clear kasi.
I always try so much, and I feel like there's some level of overload. So they really need to read again, listen.
Command verbs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, this already stopped. So
Okay na yan. Okay na yan.
generate.
Ano?
Okay na, ma'am. Okay ba? Generate ko lang.
Alignment.
Eh.
Yep, alignment alone calls for one training. Well, understand, typically this is like a 4-day training, so and you can keep
And then
on
you
doing
crump it to.
Yeah, but you know,
Okay,
because, go ahead, Ferdy.
Okay, so this is what I did now is I combined the words. So these are some of your difficulties or the topics that we need to revisit and more detailed. So it's learning alignment, course alignment, online course design, online learning tools, online courses, information overload. So Bloom's Taxonomy earned the highest, course outline, community of inquiry, the use of command verbs, the use of modular instructional design, online assessment. So these are some of the difficulties or maybe some of the topics that we need more training of. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much. And for our last question,
Ano na lang siguro, Ferdy?
Yes, ma'am.
Kasi, suggestions na lang as opposed to why.
Okay.
Ano na lang, do you have any suggestion? Whatever suggestion, more training or whatever,
Yes.
Can we do that, Maria?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe instead of asking why, suggestions for any suggestion, future training, future topic, different ways of doing things. Can you do that?
Okay.
Suggestions.
So suggestions. Okay. So. Okay.
More. Okay. There you go. Oh, we're getting some. Okay. Come on. Let's go. Follow-up sessions. Let's keep on going. Para si Dr. Beeb will do more. Wow. Arts performance course design. Wow. That's really nice. More trainings of this kind. Guys, this is your chance. Para si Dr. Bibb will design training for you. Language course design.
Okay.
And we can invite Dr. Lilia to come
Oh,
again.
boy.
And Dr. Pitagan.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Pitagan.
This is
Computer
the nice thing about
programming.
online virtual environment is you can invite people to help.
Yes,
Online
ma'am.
classroom management. Training sessions for we'd like to hear more from you. From home. Did you not hear enough from me?
Nope.
Virtual classroom, live samples. Yes, definitely. You know, yung technology ang mahirap dyan sa live samples eh. Gusto ko magpakita nung aking classes. So pag-uusapan namin yan nila Maria, kailangan natin ng medyo malaking bandwidth. Right, Ferdy?
Yes, ma'am. Wow, live samples.
Yep, live sample. I would love to do live samples ng LMS.
We can share some live samples from the OER collection.
Yun,
Kaya po
pwede
7,000 yan. Kasi yan po yung gulong na hindi po peke. Ngayon, minenastri ko. China na lang po to.
Please,
Mali kayong mag-siya kayong gulong po. All in all,
Oh my
19 po
God.
yan. Ito yan ang una natin eh.
Please mute you.
7 pa yan.
Mute
Ngayon,
your
nag-ano
Please
na ako.
mute
Sige,
you.
okay, yung gulong na
I
kahit
can't
sa
find
ina,
him.
mamaya
Everyone here is muted.
Can you mute all na lang, Tony? Tony,
Okay.
mute na lang all.
Okay. Mute all. Wait, I also muted the host. Wait.
Okay. Okay.
That's a lot. So Ferding, just pick whatever you can pick from there.
Okay,
We are
sige.
required to use professional verbs for our outcomes-based education, OBE, syllabus. We need to modify our learning objectives to fit the Blooms and OBE. Please send more materials through whatever. Ano yun? Ilonggo yun?
Okay.
Oh, thank you very much, Roscar. I like the speaker's way of pronouncing words, very vivid and clear. Thank you. Need to get materials. Oh my God.
Okay, sige, let's
Okay na yan, okay na.
Okay
We are,
naman.
oh, it's
Sige,
10 o'clock.
I will just share the last slide. Okay, so these are some of your suggestions. So open educational resources, audio samples, teachers-made assessment, follow-up sessions, language course design. The biggest would be the use of online tools, Netflix-like training, application training, technology topics, learning management system, OBE, computer programming, as performance course design, online classroom instruction, and creative tools for online learning. Wow.
Oh my God. Thank you very much, Dr. Pitagan. This is such a beautiful, I love this cloud word. Thank you. Okay, we are running out of time. I would like to say thank you, everyone, and chances are I'm going to meet you again. I hope to see you in the next session, which is virtual learning. I wonder, can I invite Dr. Pitagan again? Do you have time?
Yes, ma'am. Of course.
Don't worry, we want to do a group photo selfie.
Okay, and then we're going to do group photos.
Okay.
I'm going to take pictures myself.
Can we open all our cameras, teachers?
Please open.
Yan. Please open.
And the ones who are in a group. And you're all invited to the session tomorrow on LMS, and then the day after it's digital literacy or digital competency.
Cheryl Rose, buksan mo. Yan.
Ma'am, can I also invite them to Ma'am Maria, can I also invite them?
Of course.
Of course. Yeah.
EduTech Philippines is going to be on August 17 to 18. This is the largest educational technology conference in the Philippines. So I'm going to put in the chat room the details. This is for free. So please join us. Father Ben Beltran is also a speaker, Ma'am Lilia.
Wow. Sige, baka may time ako mag-attend ako. Lagay mo dito, ano ha, Ferdy?
Yes, ma'am.
Who's taking the picture?
I'm taking a picture. I wonder if Tony's taking a picture.
Yeah,
Suri
I will.
Alip. Suri,
Yeah.
can we see you? There you go.
Prebi.
Judilyn,
Yes,
Lina, Reina Tuason.
Very nice.
Who else? April.
Oh, there's
Jenna.
Prebi. Lina.
Everyone, please open your video because the Zoom will actually just do it randomly.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Suri,
Ferdy,
Galaxy.
thank you so much for taking the time, staying with us the whole 2 hours. Kahit na narinig mo na to, Ferdy.
Yes, ma'am. And teachers, thank you very much for taking time. I know there are, difficulties, there are challenges along the way as we migrate to the new, quote-unquote, new normal. Sawang-sawa na nga tayo sa new normal. But please hang on in there. There are a lot of organizations like Kaisipan who are really willing to to hold our hand as we transition to the new normal of doing education. So,
Guys, please stay.
kudos to our organizers. Thank you very much.
Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Don't
Thank
leave yet.
you.
I
I'm
haven't
sorry,
taken the
Mr.
picture
Lee.
yet. I haven't
Yes,
I
please
haven't
open
taken
your
yet.
camera.
You want to say something?
Yeah, I
Lilia?
haven't taken the picture yet because there are still people who are not opening their videos on the 3rd and 4th and 5th, 6th screen. Guys, please
Yes.
open your videos. I'll just do a what do you call it?
Give us your widest smile.
Yeah, ayan na po.
Okay.
I will count. I will count to 3 and then I will take pictures, okay?
Amalia.
Lina, Julie, you're on the first screen. Okay, game.
Huli eh.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Wala na sila. Okay. The rest are not opening their videos. Okay, thank you everyone. Tomorrow we have the model.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ferdy. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Ingat po, ingat. Ingat po, ingat.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have
Ingat po,
Dr. Lilia
ingat.
again on Friday. So
Yes. Okay, bye.
bye
Bye
everyone.
everyone. Ingat po, ingat.
Yeah, bye
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
I'm closing. I'm ending it now.